Welcome to Season 2 of the No Limits Life podcast, where we explore the mindset, discipline, and purpose behind extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Nordine and Ken, two-time Mr. Universe, best-selling author, and high-performance coach. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host extraordinaire, Ken.
Hey, Nordine.
And our amazing technician and producer, Emilio. Hi, Emilio.
All right, Emilio.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is great.
This is great.
Season 2.
Season 2. Today's guest represents a rare combination of intellectual precision, strategic leadership, and service-driven discipline. He operates at the intersection of law, artificial intelligence, and global leadership, while also having served over 3 decades as a United States Marine Corps officer. Markus Hartmann is the Chief Legal Development Officer at DragonGC, a cutting-edge legal AI company transforming public companies handle SEC disclosures and governance. He has helped one of the most sophisticated legal reasoning framework in the AI space, bringing structure, accuracy, and defensibility to a rapidly evolving field. Before that, he served as general counsel of Mr. Car Wash, a publicly traded company where he led legal compliance, cybersecurity, and even pioneered one of the first enterprise AI governance policies among NYSE-listed organizations. And that's the stock market, right? Yeah. His career spans leadership roles at the global giants like Mercedes-Benz, Stryker, Novartis, and Reckitt Benckiser. Across 17 countries and beyond the boardroom, Markus served 31 years as a colonel in the United States Marine Corps Reserve, including combat operations in Desert Storm and Enduring Freedom. Markus, welcome to the show. Wow.
Hey, Markus.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. Really appreciate being here. Ken, Nordine, thanks.
Thank you.
You're kicking off our second season. Thank you.
Yes,
good
you
to
are.
be here.
Before we dive in, I want to ground us in today's quote. Clarity creates power. In a world of noise, those who think with discipline and act with purpose will lead the future. Markus, you operate in some of the most complex environments: law, AI, global leadership. How does this idea of clarity and disciplined thinking show up in your life and leadership?
That's a great question, Nordine. And I think there's a thread through almost everything I've done. And I think it actually goes back to when I was in high school and I was elected class president. And that is leadership, the type of leadership that you're talking about, sort of requires a greater purpose. And that if you have the purpose first, then there's the ability to bring discipline to bear, to bring, hold yourself accountable, and to, ensure that you're making the right decisions for the right reason. I think I'd sum it up with a concept of service before self. So if there's something greater than just your personal sort of advancement, then leadership becomes something that I think with discipline allows somebody to do the right thing in the right situation. So in that sense, if I think about my first Marine Corps career, which was as a pilot, that principle that really comes out there is accountability. Mm-hmm. Because for anybody who's flown, but it also applies, the metaphor would apply to anybody who's driving. When you are at the controls, you are ultimately accountable. And that sense of accountability is what makes a leader, whether you're leading in the cockpit or whether you're leading in the boardroom. Those types of things, I think, play an incredible role. And then, again, when we're talking to somebody like a former Mr. Universe, none of it really works without that underlying discipline.
Absolutely.
You have to, there has to be that reason to get up in the morning. And then
Reason to get up in the morning.
But then you actually have to get up.
And you have to get up.
And there's plenty of times where
the reason gets you up.
Yeah, or where you don't feel like it. And then pushing through that. The nice thing about starting off your career in the military is if you ever really wanted to just roll over and lay in bed, it really wasn't allowed. So those habits built up over the early years of your life sort of roll into the corporate arena. And then, the more important things like relationships with your family, relationships with your wife and your kids, you bring those disciplines to bear that you learn early on as a younger man into the other aspects of your life.
As far as the word leadership comes, you mentioned something about others,
Right.
at the service of others. Would you say that you're actually holding hands and walking with them, or just pointing the finger as a leader?
The nice thing about where we are in 2026, and probably most of your audience, we've all seen different types of leaders. I'd like to tell you that in my experience over the last 3 decades, the only leaders that get ahead are the ones who are principled, are the ones who put the mission first, are the ones who put people first, and then put themselves last in that order. That's not necessarily the case. But what I did see in the Marine Corps was teaching and training around the mission first, people first, self. The Marine Corps thing was leaders eat last. It was more than just a slogan. It was a way of thinking about what you do and how you treat the men, how you treat the Marines.
But those leaders were walking with you.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
they were not pointing.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Absolutely.
The leaders that I followed were always, of course, I had leaders, people that I followed that really didn't make sense how they led because it was a disaster. The ones that really took me somewhere were the ones who held my hand.
Since we're entering this, and you were involved in AI, and we're entering this new era of AI, everybody's, there's podcasts about it, interviews about it, left and right. So what's your perspective on the whole AI thing? And do you think it's gonna replace our thinking, our human judgment, or do you think people are still going to have to think? And how is it going to fit with the future?
That's a great question, and it goes right back to what we were just talking about. If you think about the cutting edge of AI right now, it's agentic AI, which, let's say the really easy question would be, you enter your search engine and you say, I'd like a bar of soap. And by the time all is said and done, the agents have gone to your Amazon account, picked the soap, bought the soap, and now it's delivered to your door. That's one simplistic version of agentic AI.
Okay.
The bottom line is, from where I can see right now, I don't believe we have artificial general intelligence in the near future. We've got some really cool robots. Mm-hmm. We've got some really cool agents. But that leadership that we're talking about is still a critical part of AI. And again, in the human realm, if you think about it, let's think about it from an HR perspective.
Yeah.
Right now, there are AI systems that can look at thousands and thousands of resumes. I would not want to work with anybody until I actually looked that person in the eye, interviewed them, had this type of chemistry, and said, this is the type of person I'd like to work with. We can all look great on paper. And again, there's now AI is increasing the quality of resumes,
right?
And the automatic systems that look at resumes are increasing. All that does is tell you the non-human factors. So I think the key to successful AI implementation in any business, and the key to any, what I would say, successful AI use by an individual, is to realize where the human elements are, where human judgment is key, and where automation is fine.
So would you use AI in that scenario, the HR scenario? Would you use AI as a starting point and say, okay, look, I got 1,000 resumes. Why don't you whittle it down for me, and then I'll talk to the ones that like the top 5 or 6 or whatever?
It would be a starting point with an asterisk, in the sense that if I knew I wanted to narrow it down to 20 or 25, I would still allow for the possibility that a referral comes in, or somebody doesn't meet the standard criteria but has another it factor. Like, again, a classic example would be, there's a lot of people who are getting off active duty right now that maybe would not fit the exact profile that the ATS automated tracking system would look for because of the AI. But I'd still want to allow for that human element to make sure that if I'm looking at a slate of candidates, it includes some through human referral.
Okay. Yeah.
Question about where is AI going and how to use it. I think you're the right person to ask the question, because I have this analogy about AI. You're the pilot, AI is your co-pilot. Use AI to enhance your work. In other words, if in the case of interviewing people, do it, get the resumes, pick the ones that you like, and then interview the person.
Right.
You might even find out that you don't even need AI after you meet with a person.
Well, I do, and I have there's a basic framework that I've laid out in some articles that I've written on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to get it published in the ACC docket, which is the in-house counsel bar. But it goes over that, and the first part of that is fit for purpose, the sort of the flight framework, and then legal review, because that happens to be my area, my subject matter, the identification of the risks, how you govern it, and then ultimately human oversight. The way I look at it, I think it's almost humorous, but my kids have had a different experience than I had. When I was dating my wife, I had met her at a bar, and then the next day I saw her at church. And 30 years later, we've been married, 4 kids. You can't really ask for more than that.
Yeah, that's great, actually.
My kids, their dating experience has been swiping left and swiping right.
Yeah.
So if somebody told me the way to find a wife was AI, I would laugh at them, even though I'm a big fan of AI.
Right.
I still value that human element. Mm-hmm. And to the extent my daughter's getting married this August.
Congratulations.
She actually met.
Was that a swipe right or left?
They were on the same ski team.
Oh, okay.
Years earlier. Now they didn't know that they were going to end up together, but there was that human connection before the technological connection. And that's always, I am fascinated by AI. In October 22, when I saw what was happening with ChatGPT, it completely, it changed my hobby life.
Oh, it's crazy,
it turned into
powerful.
oh my God, this thing is an amazing thing.
It is a great tool.
But your relationships with your family, or your relationships with your friends, and I think your relationships with your coworkers and colleagues still needs to be human-based. It's nothing's going to supplant that.
Yeah, I agree.
We're entering an era where artificial intelligence is reshaping decision-making. So let's talk about, I know we delved already into AI, but I want this specific question to be answered the best you can, because people are listening and there are a lot of skeptic about AI. Every day I meet people asking me the same question. Is it going to replace humans?
I don't believe it will replace humans. Now, it will replace certain activities that humans used to do. Again, just when you sent me the invitation for this podcast, ultimately now where I can hit a button on my email and it automatically goes to my calendar. 30 years ago, executives had executive assistants who did a lot of those things. Now, that person who was an executive assistant now, I think there's other skills that they can learn along the way. But again, the thread through all of this is real human judgment is unlikely to be replaced in the near future, which doesn't mean there's not the potential for abuse. Yeah. Which is why, as fascinating,
we're already seeing it.
Yeah, as fascinating as I am about AI, the other thing I bring to the marketplace is AI governance. Yeah. And that is to make sure that you put systems in place that the ultimate decision to, we talked about before, hiring somebody through an HR system, let's say termination. I would never, ever want a termination decision on an employee to be automated. That there's a human component to what's going to happen when you.
Do you think it's going to happen?
I think there will be abuses. And I think right now, looking at this globally, because I've looked at this from, if you look at what the EUA Act, underlying principle of the EUA Act, AI Act, is to avoid those types of things, like things like facial recognition.
Hold it accountable, yeah.
Absolutely forbidden. Making decisions about creditworthiness or things that could impact somebody's lives. Those things are highly, highly regulated. One of the things that fosters innovation in the United States is we tend to be light on regulations compared to the Europeans. That being said, the state of Colorado is starting to put some safety things in place. New York City has some regulations around using AI when it comes to screening resumes and making hiring decisions. We're going to evolve and get through that, but the underlying principle, the through line is human judgment for the things that really matter to humans.
I'd like to see it this way. Yes, going to take a lot of jobs away. And you said it so eloquently that people are going to learn new skills, but they're also going to have a bunch of time free. because you can accomplish tasks now 10 times faster, even 20 times faster, or 100 times faster with AI. So that means it gives you more time. So for the people who also always had an excuse about, I don't have time to go to workout, or I don't have time to do this or that to take care of myself. Now you do.
Well, you would hope that they
Now
would
you do. But
use it correctly.
there is.
Because you could always play video games.
I think there is, this hope that people will understand, and get this awareness about, wow, I can do this now, and take, the time to do it.
A couple of things worth observing. First of all, I suspect you're probably using AI because given the bodybuilding, the podcasts, the writing of books, the speaking and stuff like that, to be a lot more.
However, the writing books, publishers don't take any book if it's more than 10% AI written.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So it's out of the way. I love writing, and I started writing way before AI was. My first book was published in 2007. I like to write and have AI enhance my scripts, and it does a great job. And of course, you should use it.
Sure.
Now in schools, they are welcoming it.
Absolutely.
As opposed to not so far. 2 years ago, they wouldn't even think about using it. Now all the students are using it, and so use as a tool of enhancement. It's great. Use it to replace you in writing and all that. It's a nightmare because it agrees with you all the time and wants to please you, and it can be erroneous.
Which is why that tendency that agreeableness, that sort of sycophancy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've written on, and one of the things that I recommend to people is a principle that you learn in command and staff school in the Marine Corps, and that is, a lot of times, especially if you think about what's going on in Iran now, people see the executed mission and they assume that was the mission from the beginning to execution. What really happens at the staff level is, and I'm going to tie this to AI, is usually a commander is presented with at least 3 courses of action. And during the planning phase, the commander basically evaluates the 3 courses of action, and everybody tries to poke holes in the courses of action, and then the commander's responsible for picking the best one. My recommendation to anybody who's in this space seriously is the beauty of Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok is that they all have what I would call, for lack of a better word, 4 different personalities. And some are less agreeable than others.
What do you prefer?
Claude loves me. If I want to feel good about myself, Claude says I'm 6'3" with a full head of hair.
So you love Claude.
I love Claude. ChatGPT is a little bit more critical, but my recommendation is if you really want to, and this is where you can leverage the military aspect of it, use 2 or 3 of the LLMs to answer the same question. The variation there will give you greater understanding of either where your question missed something or you may have missed something. And then with those 3 voices and your human judgment, now you've done exactly what you've talked about. You've enhanced your judgment. You still are ultimately accountable, but yet the best use of AI in 2026 is not to rely on just one LLM or one foundation model.
Always wondered that. You set me up for my question. Perfect segue. So, okay, you're in the military, 31 years, and then you've got this amazing corporate life and background. So how did your military experience help you with your business background?
I was lucky because the reserves were an opportunity for me. So when I got off active duty and I went to law school, I was able to participate in the reserves. And then after 9/11, the Marine Corps basically said, if you want to be a judge advocate, we'll deploy you to someplace, but you can pick up your judge advocate. So I got to be both a helicopter pilot and a judge advocate.
What is a judge advocate?
That's a lawyer. That's a military lawyer.
Okay.
So I was a helicopter pilot, my first thing on active duty.
Right.
After 9/11, I volunteered, and then I got to be a military lawyer.
Wow.
Went to Naval Justice School.
Flying lawyer.
And then I got to deploy to Djibouti in the Horn of Africa for a humanitarian assistance mission.
Wow.
So what really sort of bleeds over from my Marine Corps to corporate, there's so much. And again, the way Nordine started this, the leadership lessons are sort of the primary ones. But a couple of practical takeaways. One of the things we always did was pre-brief every flight. Military pilots never just get in the plane and go fly around. There is a reason for the flight that you're taking, and then you're going to brief with whoever you're flying with, whether it's your instructor pilot or whether it's a mission during Desert Shield or Desert Storm. You're going to pre-brief that flight and literally try to go through just about every turn and every elevation during the brief.
Really?
So when you're actually executing, you are less surprised. And that allows you to sort of have the second aspect of what I think bleeds over, a set of emergency procedures. The thing about being a helicopter pilot is you're essentially trained to continuously think, what is going to break next? When am I going to fall out of the sky?
Yeah, because you don't really glide very well with the helicopter.
There's no gliding. That sort of makes you, it gives you a mentality that says, I need procedures to deal with the variations that can happen. In a business setting, I recommend the same thing. Just, you can have the best business plans in the world. Somebody in the room needs to be able to say, what happens if something goes wrong?
I love what you said about, briefing before, piloting. Same in life. If you really want to know where you're going, you should visualize it first. See it. See yourself being there. This is not woo-woo stuff. This is done in the Army. It's done everywhere. So see yourself, prepare yourself intentionally in the morning and see yourself doing what needs to be done throughout the day. So that's I love what you said. Thank you.
Like the habits that you learned in the military, like what would you recommend like to somebody right now as like the number one discipline that you would have that you've gotten out of the military to translate that into business?
The number one in where we are now in 2026, learn something new. We all have a tendency to stick to our comfort zone.
Yeah.
What was cool about 2022 is I'm not a computer science major. So what AI was, again, I didn't want to write recipes or have AI write poems. I immediately thought about how can this impact the law? How can it impact legal practice? So I set about learning that way. And that was the nice thing about ultimately working for DragonGC. When you're under the hood, when you realize how the LLM interacts with data and then interacts with the lawyer that's trying to get a question out of that, there's a steep learning curve. It's one of the reasons I took a course at Berkeley on legal AI and the law. So in the military, from day one, it's like you're always learning something new. You're always going to another school. To the extent you can take that through life, I just think, again,
it makes you more valuable, doesn't it?
I also think it fights things like aging, Alzheimer's, brain rot.
For sure.
Learning new skills, I think it's scientifically proven.
Keeps life interesting.
Keeps life interesting,
No, don't get
wires your
bored.
brain in a certain way. So that is something that I learned from the military. But again,
That's a really good takeaway.
sitting
actually.
next to a former Mr. Universe, there was every day, at least in the Marine Corps, every day between 11 and 1, you weren't supposed to be sitting at your desk eating. You were supposed to be out doing PT, which is
Really?
physical training.
Yeah.
2 hours a day.
It's not. It's
An hour and a half. It
okay.
allowed you a half an hour to get showered up so you
Okay.
didn't stink up the place the rest of the day.
No,
but
it
that was a
al-
daily regimen, and that is something that I recommend highly.
Nice.
Marcus, I always say this. People emphasize too much on the content. And that sometimes, you're looking for motivation outside. Okay? And that doesn't last long. You get bored. But what I look at when I start something and keep doing it is the context. How is this, going to be leading me to the next goal and achieve that goal? What is the passion what kind of heart I'm putting into this? And that's what allows you to get up in the morning and do the things that you need to be doing. Passion. That's what I call the context. Thinking about what needs to be done, it completely motivates you because you don't want to do it. So look for the context. Marcus, your journey is a powerful reminder that the leadership is not just about intelligence. It's about discipline, clarity, and service. You've shown us that whether in combat, in the boardroom, or in the evolution of AI, the human element, how we think, decide, and lead remains to be everything. Okay. So I want to read again the quote that I read in the beginning of this episode. Clarity creates power. In a world of noise, those who think with discipline and act with purpose will lead the future. We're living in an age of overwhelming information, constant noise, endless opinions, and accelerating change. But clarity is rare. And because it is rare, it is powerful. The leaders of tomorrow will not be the loudest. They will be the clearest. The ones who can strip away distraction, think deeply, and act decisively. Clarity does not come from comfort. It comes from discipline, from asking better questions, from slowing down enough to see what truly matters. And when you combine clarity with purpose, something extraordinary happens. You stop reacting and you start leading. So to those who are listening and watching, here's your call to action. Take a moment today to step away from the noise, get clear on what matters, and act on it with intention. Reflect on this. Where in your life are you reacting to noise instead of acting with clarity? And what would change if you choose differently? Token of recognition, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
I've read that, by the way. It's very good.
This is my current book.
By this afternoon, I'll be reading Inner Fitness by Nordine.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Nordine.
You're very welcome.
This is a great book. And again, I truly do believe in inner fitness before I get into the book because,
it's going to be an easy read then.
My compass is faith, family, friends, core, country, and the company that I happen to be working for. With that type of sort of compass, I think that is the discipline that you talk about. It's a reason to get up in the morning, a way to define yourself, and what keeps me going.
Thanks, Markus. And to our viewers, listeners, first of all, it's great to be back for a second season. Thanks for joining us our first season and making this possible for number 2. And if you enjoyed this, which I hope you did, please subscribe, comment. We love your comments. It helps guide us to our next guest.
Yes, thank you, all of you. I'm so excited. This is series. We made it to series 1.
Yep.
Okay, we're still here.
What was that? 57 episodes?
Yes, 55.
55 episodes.
5. I think we took the 2 that you were on.
Oh, deleted them?
No, just kidding.
Okay.
So series 2. Thank you so much. We are so looking forward to this.